Hi, welcome to another SheepCorn Studios video. The first time I did Triumph of the Will, I was under lockdown and I was trying desperately to finish my course curriculum. The first time I did Triumph of the Will, it wasn't very good. The first time really lacked quality, but since it's my most popular video, I thought I would go back and redo my analysis of Triumph of the Will one part at a time. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you'll hit like and subscribe, and let's get started with Triumph of the Will Redo. So let's start off with the title, Triumph of the Will. Why is it called Triumph of the Will? This is actually drawing on the philosophical work of Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche laid out a philosophical principle called the will to power. Nietzsche really identifies this will to power as the motivating force behind all human activity. Nietzsche is also very famous for suggesting that society actually restrains the will, particularly of great individuals, and prevents them from being able to develop to the fullest extent of their capability. The Nazi Party, and Adolf Hitler in particular, used this concept of the will to power to suggest that they needed to free themselves of societal agents of control that had limited the development of the pure and perfect society according to their ideology. Now, this is also significant because to a certain extent they're also misinterpreting Nietzsche's philosophy because they're conflating two concepts, Kraft and Macht. Kraft means force or strength, and so in other words, forcing your will onto another in order to achieve your outcome, versus Macht, which also means power, but Macht also carries this connotation of overcoming the restrictions and restraints within one's self, which tends to be a lot more what Nietzsche is referring to. So the Nazis take this out of context and refer to their ascendancy into the control of Germany as the triumph of this ultimate will. It's significant to note that Triumph of the Will was ordered by Hitler after becoming the Führer. Prior to being the Führer, Hitler had been appointed by President von Hindenburg as the Chancellor of Germany in hopes of stopping the communist takeover that they thought was going to be happening here in the early part of 1933. However, President Hindenburg died, and when he did, Hitler went directly to the people of Germany to ask them for a plebiscite, which is a vote of yes or no, on whether or not they wanted him to combine the two offices of Chancellor and President into one now combined office of the Führer. World War I is something that looms huge in Nazi ideology. They feel slighted. They feel as though Germany is being held back. And again, that's the connection to Nietzsche's concept of the will to power, is that the other lesser nations than Germany are holding it back and restraining it through the Treaty of Versailles. And so the very first thing that they hit us with in Triumph of the Will is a reference back to this absolutely objectionable treatment that Germany has been subjected to as a result of the Treaty of Versailles. Then they provide us with 16 years after the start of German suffering. This is again a reference specifically to the Treaty of Versailles, which imposed such harsh sanctions on Germany that really people were concerned whether Germany was going to survive at all. So they're summoning up this image of the hated Treaty of Versailles. Now, if you'll notice, the music changes, right? It becomes this hopeful music as opposed to the kind of the deep, dark music that it started with and the ominous music that it starts with. It then transitions immediately to, once the slide changes, a hopeful kind of opening and almost jubilant kind of a musical score. And it tells us that 19 months after the start of Germany's rebirth. Well, what's 19 months before September of 1934? Hitler coming to power. And this takes us to the second major point of Triumph of the Will, which is called the Führerprinzip. It's the idea that the singularly unifying leader, Hitler himself, the Führer, the leader, is the solution to all of Germany's problems. They can fix all of their problems if only they invest everything into this one dominant leader with absolute total control. And so then it tells us, right? It's presented the problem. It's now providing us with the solution, which is Adolf Hitler flies once again to the city of Nuremberg to review a military display. But in actuality, this is really more like a party congress more than anything else. There are political speeches, there are parades, there are actual military displays, because now that he is the Führer, the military is directly under his control. So one quick thing about this small sequence is that for most people in the early to mid 1930s in Germany, most of them probably have never been in an airplane. Most of them have never seen footage like this. And to make this connection between what is, for all intents and purposes, the heavens, and Hitler himself further reinforces this Führerprinzip, which is that he's kind of up there in the heavens cavorting with the gods. He knows other things, the other world almost. And so when he brings that back down to us, that really gives him a humongous amount of credibility. Because Triumph of the Will includes so many parade sequences, we're going to go here with our 3 times obligatory parade speed and just kind of power through the parades, because I really don't have a whole lot to add to the parades, and in the interest of giving you the entire film, I'm going to include them, but I'm going to include them at 3 times speed. This is a really great shot of Hitler's shadow literally being cast down over the town. And of course, what we see as a result of Hitler casting his shadow over the town is everybody is very well organized. Everyone is together. This kind of national unity has taken hold, and they're getting things done, and they're getting things done in a very, very big way. Once we start getting shots of the crowd waiting for Hitler and his associates to land at the airfield, an important thing to notice is something that plays directly into Hitler's and the Nazi Party's ideology, which is all of these various and diverse Germans, right? People from the north, from the south, old people, young people, men, women, children, people who are wealthy, people who are working class, people who are poor. Huge amounts of diversity within this particular group, but the thing that unifies them all together is the Führer principle, the idea that Hitler is the singularly unifying and organizing principle of Germany. Right behind Hitler comes Dr. Joseph Goebbels, who was one of the only really highly educated Nazis. His degree was in literature, but again, he's one of the few people who really in the Nazi Party who has a really truly advanced degree. He's a creepy guy. He really is a blind devotee of Adolf Hitler and of National Socialism. And to me, again, he just kind of looks like a vampire. A quick comment here in the middle of this really long parade is, if you'll notice, they're putting special emphasis again on children and the fact that children understand the position of the leader, and so we all, as good Germans, must follow the parent figure, the Führer, and be the good children of the nation. So after an enormously long parade, Hitler has finally arrived at the venue, and the thing that I want you to pay most attention to is the SS, the guys all dressed in black, highly shined black leather boots. They've got the swastika featured prominently on their uniforms. These are guys who have sworn a personal oath of allegiance directly to Adolf Hitler. Not to the state, not to the government, to him himself. And they're going to be a major focus of later parts of this video. So I hope that this part 1 breakdown of Triumph of the Will was enjoyable and informative. I hope you learned something. If you did, make sure you hit the thumbs up button for a like, leave a comment, make sure to subscribe to my channel, and of course hit the bell notification. I have 8 more pieces of Triumph of the Will to evaluate and break down, and hopefully you'll be here along with me when we check it out. And I will see you in the next one.